Yo, what's up, guys? It's the Insane Game Freak here to bring you what I would consider a part two to the whole homosexuality video societal discussion I did because of responses, and part of it is from I went through kind of a roller coaster of emotions with this. Originally, I was going to make one, then I didn't want to make one, and then I realized that my phone went off for no goddamn reason. And then I realized that it wasn't just certain people who didn't get it. Like, a lot of people, there was a decent amount of people who didn't understand where I was coming from in the statements I were making. I'm surprised a lot of you did get it, but there was a decent amount of you who didn't get it, and I want to just clarify it for those who didn't get it. Also, because some of the statements in here just kind of annoyed the shit out of me, because it's as if some of you either didn't watch the entire video or completely misconstrued what I was saying. Now, granted, I'm not going to say everything I said was clear and understandable, but I'm not going to say also that some of the things some people just flat out ignored. So let's just kind of get into it, and I'm going to address each point specifically by point. So the first thing I guess we should talk about is the McDonald's thing. For some reason, people took that McDonald's story I told at the beginning of the video as the basis of my argument. If anyone's seen my videos before, or specifically my discussions, you would know that I have the tendency to relate the basis of my discussions, well, not really the basis, but more so the spark of my discussions, through some experience that happened in my life. The whole McDonald's situation was what sparked the discussion. It wasn't the base behind the discussion. It wasn't like my whole discussion was about how gay people feel like they can get away with anything just because they're gay. Because, and I even say this in the video, by the way, that's a people thing. People do that all the time. I even made a reference to black people doing it. People in general take advantage of what they can take advantage of to get ahead in the world. That's not a gay issue. That's a people issue. But as I said, it was a situation that happened to me, and it just happened to be with a gay person. Therefore, I use that as the spark, because that's what caused me to start thinking about it seriously and made me want to do the video on it. It wasn't specifically that gay people are the only types of people who do this. It's just that it was with a gay person, and that's what sparked me wanting to talk about homosexuals specifically. That was all. That was it. It wasn't like that's literally what it was. So the second point is that for some reason at a certain point you guys believed I was talking about all homosexual people, even though this is once again something I said at the beginning of the video, how I wasn't talking about all homosexual people. I was talking about specific types. I don't know if I specifically said it, but I did say something along the lines of how it was like I don't think I specifically said it, and I may have not specifically said which type of gay person or gay people I was talking about, but I did say I wasn't talking about all gay people. I remember saying that, and people even quoted me in the comments of not saying all gay people. I wasn't referring to all gay people when I made this video. But to clarify, I was specifically referring to the overly, what's the word for them? The ones who push their sexuality onto you. Those type of gay people, or the ones who are overly kind of like the overly black power kind of dudes, like that. You know, the ones who want to beat you to death over the whole gay rights thing, just like how you have some people beating you to death with the whole black rights thing. I don't like people who push their fucking ideas and morals onto me, because personally that gets kind of annoying, and it makes me not really care about what you're fighting for, because you've tried so hard to convert me, or to get me to see your way of seeing things, but instead of just talking to me like a regular person, you chose to just keep pushing it, just not having a conversation or normal dialogue. You just chose to keep pushing your fucking sexuality onto me. That was specifically the type of gay person I was talking about. I guess the next thing would be is the whole, and this one is the one I believe is what they got the biggest amount of shit for, about how, and this the whole masculine and feminine thing. How, and some people I believe said I contradicted myself, because I stated, I'm trying to remember specifically how I worded it, that I said something along the lines that why do gay men have to act overly feminine when they're gay, and why do women have to act overly masculine when they're gay? But then I think the contradiction, I believe this is where the contradiction comes in, is when I also say, what was it? It was something ridiculous. It's like, why can't a gay man just be a guy and just be into men? Or why can a gay man or a gay woman can't just be act like a normal woman but be into women? And people go, well, why can't you just have a man that acts overly feminine and is actually gay? And then I think it was also brought up the whole argument of, well, what does it truly mean to be masculine and feminine? And I was sitting there and I was like, I said that in the video. I'll probably put a clip in here just to prove it. But I actually do question the whole, well, what makes a certain act masculine and what makes a certain act feminine? No, there's nothing wrong with a man or a woman having traits that is more geared towards another gender than another, which to me still bothers me, because who made up that fucking rule anyway? It's like, if you cook and clean, that's feminine. How is that feminine? Just because women do it? Like, that's the connotation we've kind of given that shit. And for some reason, I believe people didn't catch that. And then so people still wonder, if you actually did say that in the video, then why did you not make a reference to that? Well, see, here's the thing. In our society, we have been taught through conditioning and just through history that because a certain gender ended up doing certain acts, that we ended up associating that gender with that act. And that's how we've been taught ever since then. So as a kind of a teaching tool, it would have been easier to relate it that way to people than to try to use the whole, well, no act is truly masculine and no act is truly feminine. They're just acts. We're the ones who put the gender connotation on them. Most people wouldn't have got that off the flip, so I decided to use just the basic, well, this is the masculine thing and this is the feminine thing. But of course, I'm aware that those are terms we as people gave those acts, not the acts themselves aren't like, I know the bigger picture is the whole masculine. I even bring this up in my old gender roles societal discussion. So this wasn't like, I didn't get the point. Alright, and I guess one of the other big things was the whole transsexual comment. And this is the one where I'll honestly admit it was one of my bad jokes, in the sense that I said it in a dickish tone, which is like my other type of humor. Like, most people know me for two types of humor. I have like that obvious comedy, you know, the ones where I laugh and I say things in real joking manners, and the other one where I say really mean things, like I say things in a dickish tone. And I'm not gonna blame anyone but myself for conveying it in that manner, because considering how big of a hot button issue this is, and then to state a joke, not even really a bad joke like that in that manner, and then not expect people not to get it or to lash out because they didn't get it, is no one's fault but my own. The transsexual thing, I didn't literally mean that I believe all gay people first. And once again, this wasn't referring to all gay people to begin with. This was only referring to the ones who overly push their sexuality in your face, just like heterosexual men do, like overly manly heterosexual men do, or overly feminine heterosexual females do. Once again, it wasn't just strictly a gay issue, it's a people thing. But because I was talking about homosexuals, I only really referred to homosexuals. And not all homosexuals, mind you, just the ones who push their sexuality in your face. Just like not all heterosexual people are like that. It's the same logic. But as I said, the transsexual statement was kind of, as I said, more of a really mean joke. That's really all I'm going to say about that. And I apologize for those who were offended. And I apologize for not conveying that in a manner in which I could say that was just me being a dick and not necessarily me being serious about that. Because obviously I don't believe that every gay person should be, that is just a closet transsexual. I don't believe that. And the other big thing was the whole me relating being gay to the whole rock star phenomenon back in like the 70s, in which I believe being gay was a fad. Does that mean that I don't believe gay people are actually gay? No. But I do believe that there are a decent number of gay people, specifically the ones who push it in your face and the ones who try really hard to act a certain way, and the ones that you can tell, and even people in the comments pretty much proved my point by knowing people who were originally heterosexual and became gay, and for some reason their entire personality changed. When I say being gay is a fad, what I'm specifically referring to is the fact that there are a lot of people, and I even mentioned this in the video, mind you, specifically like a lot of teens, where they don't know what kind of sexuality they are, and then all of a sudden they just feel like, and people, and it's like, and it will kill me, Uber Hikari specifically didn't understand this, as it just fucking confused him. When people want to fit in, what was the biggest issue we had in high school? That we ended up acting like something we weren't to fit in with a certain group of people we felt like we needed to belong to, or we felt like we could belong to. So we ended up doing things that we weren't necessarily proud of, or things that really weren't us. And for some reason, people don't think if you can literally do this with anything. You can literally do this with acting a certain way. That's really what it was, just acting a certain way. People usually change their entire personalities based on the group they wanted to join up with. And it's like people, and for some reason he didn't understand that like being gay was one of those things. Some people feel like they can belong to, that they believe being a part of that group of people who were gay is not one of those groups. Like apparently a person can't feel like they belong with gay people, right? Even though they may not technically do, they just feel like it. Some people just felt like they thought they were gay. But because they weren't actually gay and they didn't understand what being gay really was, they decided to take the stereotypes from being gay and apply it to themselves, therefore making themselves seem gay. That's why guys who were trying to appeal to be gay started acting overly feminine, because the stereotype for gay men is to be overly feminine. And it's vice versa with the girls. Girls thought that being gay, the girls who didn't really know any better, are the ones who were still trying to find themselves, but were trying to fit in with the gay crowd, thought that being overly masculine girls, or girls who just thought they were tomboys, who thought they were gay because they had tomboyish qualities, adopted a lot of male qualities, or what we perceive to be male qualities, I guess is a better statement. And they put that on as the persona to be lesbian. And for some reason, I don't know if it was specifically Uber, but I know Uber was one of the first people to mention it. I was like, are you really telling me that you can't believe, or you don't believe that that happens? That you don't believe that people would try to change themselves in order to fit in, and that being gay hasn't become really mainstreamed all of a fucking sudden? And it's the same thing with being a nerd. If you notice, a lot of people all of a sudden are now into gaming more than they used to be. It's the same thing. You try to fit in with a certain group, therefore you start adopting stereotypical quirks of that group in order to fit in with that group. That's why we have a whole bunch of gamers who don't really know shit, but act like they do because they think they play, just because you play Call of Duty and knack, that you know what the fuck you're talking about. It's the same thing with gay people. You think just because you're wearing booty shorts and you're hitting on guys, that makes you a gay man, when obviously that's not what being gay is about. That was the point I was fucking making. And for some reason, people, I can accept people not knowing that was the point, but Uber just tripped me out. And I was like, wait, so you think that just can't happen, or do you just think that's not possible? And I guess the other thing about Uber that annoyed the fuck out of me is at a certain point he started calling my opinions facts. I'm trying to find it real quick, because it was something in which he said I was saying something that was factual. He said that I wasn't just stating opinions. At that point I was trying to state like factual evidence or something along those lines, even though I never state that in almost any of my videos. And if I do, I apologize. I didn't mean to do that. But I know in this video, I've rewatched this video like 6 times. I did not state any of these things as fact. These were stated as my opinion. Because I don't, and I'm trying to see. I can't specifically find it, but as I said, none of this shit is being stated as fact. These are just my opinions on things. And I believe the last thing that he said, and the last thing that was an issue to begin with, was the fact that I viewed homosexuality as only pertaining to sexual preference, even though that's the definition of homosexuality. And I understand why. I understand why he got angry at me saying that, or not really angry, but disagreeing with the fact that I believe that homosexuality should only deal with your sexual orientation, because obviously everything is connected one way or the other. Meaning the way you grow up and the environment you're in and the people you're around. There are a million different factors that change and shape you as a person. Therefore, to say that homosexuality is specifically only being, it's only affects what you're sexually into, kind of seems ridiculous. But at the same time, that's the base definition of homosexuality. And I'm going to look it up real quick just to prove my point. That technically it only has, can I find it a definition for it? That homosexuality only has to deal with your sexual orientation. Obviously, it's not the creation, but your definition of the word could be something different. But here it is. The erotic activity of another with the same sex, the quality of state of being homosexual, aka meaning homosexuality only technically, and I say technically because that's what it is, technically only deals with your sexual orientation, whether you want to be with a person or get intimate with a person of the same sex. Now he does bring up the whole fact that it's bound with the notions of gender identity, the reason why heterosexual men never act feminine. It's the whole, he goes how it's ingrained deeper into the human psyche and the human and just people in general. But when I say that, I mean technically being gay should only really affect what kind of person. It should not affect you as a person in the sense of, it should not change who you are completely. Like, I don't understand, and once again I'm referring to the gay people who for some reason choose to change their entire identity because they're gay. Now I understand that to an extent if it's a gay person who felt like a lot of the things that they were into were not acceptable because as a straight male or a straight female you weren't supposed to do those things and they were restricting themselves. And I understand a lot of gay people feel that way, so when they come out gay, obviously their personality completely changes because they're trying to be them at that point. They're not trying to be restricted by the same restrictions they put on themselves by the society that is mainly dominated by heterosexual male and female human beings. So I'm not saying it's like a blatant impossibility. I'm just saying personally, for gay people who weren't restricting their personalities at all, you know, the ones who just acted the way they were and just realized that they were gay, it shouldn't automatically mean your personality should change. It shouldn't automatically dictate everything else. That's my whole thing. But I believe that's everything. I'm going to edit this down and see what to put in and what to take out. And hopefully my point got across. And hopefully this was a little bit more better structured. If not, this one I probably will delete and redo it because I want to make sure the points I'm making get out straight. So please leave your thoughts and comments. For those who originally got my first video, thank you. For those who didn't, hopefully this clears some things up. And yeah, I apologize for making certain things muddle, but at the same time, don't listen, because half of this shit, as I've stated, I did say in the original video. Some of you just didn't catch it through the ranting, which once again was my fault, because the biggest problem is ranting about a hot button issue is a very dangerous and stupid idea, and that's just kind of a life lesson that I learned today, and hopefully you guys learn too. Anyways, life's a game, play to win, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace off.